I wind it out, it would go, oh, no, 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 no. And then you shift it and the car would go, boom. And I remember looking over at you and you were laughing, crying, and your hand was on the ceiling because the seats were like going nuts. And I just remember that so vividly. It was the greatest moment ever.
I was cheered up.
Yeah.
Is this Larry and his friend going to school?
My diesel was awesome, and it gave me the freedom I wanted as a teenager, but I always had my eye on the white whale of Volkswagens. The dream car at the time for me was a Mark II GTI 16-valve 2-liter in Montana green. I knew if I'd ever find one, I'd just buy it sight unseen. So this is the story of me finding my high school dream car in very, very rough shape and completely restoring it from the ground up in just 5 weeks.
It's got good bones.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
It's been drinking milk its whole life. Nestle in.
Okay, today is a huge day. We have a 1992 VW GTI that just came in from Ohio. My buddy Jeff found it. It's been sitting outside forever. It's the first time I'm gonna see it right now. Super stoked. Here it is. Hey, what's going on?
Oh, not much. How are you?
Nice to meet you. I'm Larry.
Jason.
All right.
Nice to meet you.
You got something cool for me?
I sure do.
All right. Let's see. You know, most people look at this and are like, why would you want this thing? This is music to my ears right here. How's the interior? Oh, that's right. With the GTI inside and under the lights, you can really see it's much worse than I originally thought, or I guess I hoped. This had a rough life, and that's what makes a project like this that much better. The transformation from beginning to end is gonna be crazy. Bright and early the next day, with the Valkyrie out of the studio and on its way to the new owner, you can see how much algae and lichen has grown on the original Montana green paint from sitting outside and near or under some trees. Lichen is the crusty or textured patches that look leafy or like little flowers budding on top of the paint, while algae, on the other hand, tends to be more green growth that you can see here and is usually found in areas where the dirt and the moisture accumulate over time. Either way, it's very common on vehicles that sit outdoors and under trees for long periods of time. The interior, same thing, just as bad. Mold, mildew smell combined with mouse urine and feces. It doesn't make for an exciting driving experience no matter how many air fresheners you put in the car. Now, if you're unfamiliar, the MK2 Volkswagen GTI with the 2-liter 16-valve engine in Montana green is one of the rarest and most special hatches ever built by VW. With its high-revving twin-cam motor, tight chassis, and raw analog feel, it represented the peak of driver-focused engineering in the late 80s and the early 90s. But what really sets this apart is the color. Montana green, which was not very well received when it first came out, but today, incredibly desirable. Only a handful were ever produced in this color, approximately 500 or so from what I can find, especially with the high output 2-liter 16-valve engine, making it sort of a unicorn amongst the GTI. So I have to go all in on this one. With that, I put her up on the lift, removed the wheels, and focused on cleaning the undercarriage.
Shocks are shot.
With a fresh resupply of Boost and Brute for this project, I mixed them both together in the foam reservoir and coated the suspension and the bottom of the car. What's that? Scared the crap out of me coming out of this car. What is that? This is gonna look so good when it's done. I am so excited. The engine was a hot mess as well, with leaves, sticks, mud, and mold from the blocked drainage. With round 1 of power washing done, I soaked everything in ammo foam and boost for some extra cleaning power, and then just let it soak for about 4 or 5 minutes before agitating with a blue wash towel and a brush. Washing a really dirty car that has been forgotten or neglected over its life feels so good when you're doing it, and I know for most people it's just a car, but to car people, this thing has a soul and actually feels better when it's cleaned and certainly driving down the road instead of just rotting in someone's driveway. Again, I know it's crazy, but I'm not alone. If you're watching this, you probably agree. Washing and vacuuming a really dirty car is genuinely, sincerely one of my favorite things to do. Now, before I polished the paint, I used a clay bar to pick up as much contamination as possible because it was sitting outside for so long. If I don't clay now, my polishing pad will fill up with that residue and debris much faster, causing my work to be a bit slower and increase the chances of a poor polishing job when I'm done, because that pad is just so dirty. It's going to scour the paint as I'm polishing. So when I was done with all that, I rinsed the car one more time before performing my test spot. After about 15 minutes of polishing, the paint looks fantastic, but it was much stronger, much harder than I originally thought. You'd think VW paint, 1992, it's gonna be relatively soft. That is not the case. This was probably one of the hardest paints I've done in probably 2-3 years. In fact, I broke out the DA coarse wool polishing pad, very, very strong pad, and I had to go to the DA coarse blue. That's how strong it was. After probably 3 or 4 passes, it looks fantastic. If you take a deep look in here, there's actually yellow as well. So this is gonna be a little bit extra work, but well worth it in the end. It looks fantastic. After polishing most of the driver's side, you can see the paint has come back really great and the before and after was huge, but at the same time, it also kind of emphasizes just how many dents there were that I couldn't see before because of all the algae and the lichen. Given that the number of these dents, especially the ones on the rear fender and the door, are way beyond reasonable PDR techniques, it's going to require some paint and body work to make the panels perfect again. So I decided to call the boys in from J&B Bodyworks to assess the condition of the GTI and what our next steps would be to repair those areas. But before that, FCP Euro heard about the project on the Ammo Instagram page and wanted to help out and get her back on the road and supply any parts that the car might need. So we hopped on a Zoom call to inspect the engine along with Tom from Ace, who was in the studio, just to kind of figure out what it might need to get this 2-liter running again, which as it turns out is a very long list because it's been sitting for a very long time. So we were just kind of assessing what we would need to do and what parts we would need to do it with. Okay, so after all of that, later that night, J&B Bodyworks stopped by just to give me some advice on the damage to the door and the rear quarter. But much like when I took the 964 in for what I thought was a small rust repair, turned out to be a full repaint because of the underlying damage we found that I couldn't see just from staring at the car. We had to disassemble things. So this sort of quick patch up, I was starting to learn it was steamrolling into a bigger restoration right before my eyes.
This door, again, in a perfect world, I'd love to change it because there's a lot of dents in it, but then there's also a lot of there's been body work and it's been painted.
As the conversation progressed under the car, I could hear the Izzos getting pretty excited about the GTI, and knowing them as well as I do, there's no half steps, there's no touch-up jobs at J&B. It's all in, no questions asked, which is awesome, but at the same time sort of terrifying because I committed to showing this car at the FCP Euro Sunday motoring meet at Lime Rock in 5 weeks on July 13th. So for reference, the Izzos came into the studio, this film right here you're watching, on June 7th. So yeah, 36 days to disassemble the interior, clean and disinfect it, figure out why the engine isn't running, fix it or rebuild it with new parts, repaint the car and the engine bay, re-dye all of the interior plastics, fix the radio and the speakers that were eaten up by mice, then, you know, sort of put it all back together in a little over a month is completely insane, but why not? What could go wrong? So with all that, this is where the story takes a turn from a weeks-long disaster detail to a full-blown 5-week restoration and preservation with a team of friends who love saving cars as much as I do. So with all of that, here we go. So for step one, I went all out. I called my buddy Bill from BillT Industries. He's pretty much the VW whisperer, knows every nook and cranny of the car. He's unbelievable. We needed to disassemble the interior and remove the engine all in one day.
Dude's got an invoice for cleaning his lawn in 2016. That's how long this stuff's been sitting here.
Well, this guy didn't like paying taxes.
No. Film. God knows what's on there. But we're gonna get that developed. That's gonna be pretty neat. Testosterone and look, jewelry. He spent $322. This is a man's man right there. I can't wait to sit in that. Action, speeding.
You got. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yep, right here. You can see the little pocket where they sleep. The little indentations whenever we find these. There's one here, one here, and one here. That's where they nestle in. Yeah. There, you gotta have the ice scraper.
Right? That's nice.
Huh? Then.
With the interior nearly out, I went across the street to borrow Steve's engine hoist. Check this out, even the mice made it up to the headliner and ate through the sound deadening. Just crazy how much they went nuts inside this car.
Oh wow, that was so cool. Now we're getting to the good stuff. That's sound deadening from the 90s. It's heavy too.
After a few hours, the interior was down to the metal, and that's when I sort of came to the realization that we would have had no choice but to do this anyways because the mice had gotten behind everything, including the dashboard. In other words, if I didn't remove the dashboard in just a disaster detail kind of video, I would have smelled urine forever when I turned the fan on, so it had to be done either way.
That's different e-brake cable sets. Leave it alone, source one. There might be in there. That's bacon in the sun.
Look at that nest.
Next, we focused on removing the engine, but thankfully Tom from Ace came in because this is more of a 2 or 3 person job to make this as quick as we needed it to be. First, they drained all the fluids and then removed the grill, the original fuel distributor, the radiator, the AC, the clutch cable, washer fluid, reservoir harnesses, wires, and so on. Cam seals, crank seals, intermediate shaft seals, valve cover gasket, clutch cable, fuel pump, fuel filter, fuel distributor head, fuel pump box. Then from below, the axles came out with some extra persuasion. Then Bill cut the old rusted bolts on the exhaust to make life a little bit easier when we snaked the downpipe out of the engine bay. With the hoist in place, we hooked up the chains and then quickly removed the front bumper so we could just slide the engine forward and out, so we thought.
We're so close.
Yeah, you're not though.
Okay, yep, keep going.
Get there.
Okay.
Over.
There we go.
Wow. With the engine out and on the stand, Bill cleaned up the last little bits of wires and hoses in the engine bay, and it appears we figured out why the car likely wasn't running and maybe why it was parked all those years ago. The fuel lines were completely rusted and plugged up. The previous owner did mention that he was having fuel problems and we couldn't quite figure it out and why they parked the car for so long, so I do think this is the smoking gun. As for all the wires, like I said, Bill is a crazy man and definitely the guy you want working on your car.
The way these plugs are, I know where these go already because I've done this so many times, but this fuse panel has got letter numbers on it and it's pinned. So this stuff will only kind of go in one way, but you do have to have an idea where it goes, you know? But you can see all three of these are together and they got different pins going in each spot. So it can kind of only go together one way. But if you haven't done this before, don't do that.
Lastly, I blew out the engine compartment and taped down the hood before we shipped it off quickly to J&B the next morning. When we arrived down at J&B, there's always something crazy going on there. It's like a car show every day, completely nuts. Just look at this place. It's like an army of techs and gorgeous cars as far as the eye can see. Anyhow, the boys made a game plan on what the next steps would be, with the understanding this needs to be done ASAP and I have to make it to that show. With the car at J&B, first, although seemingly disassembled, I thought we did all that work, the boys really ripped apart the car in advance of stripping the paint. I'm talking bumpers, windows, trim, emblems, fender flares, wipers, door handles, doors, mirrors, hood, and so on. They did all of this in under an hour.
Spectrometer on it.
Yeah.
It'll give a readout in the machine. It gets booted onto our computer. Gives us a toner, like, you know, what's inside of it, a layout of all the toners. We can do a spray out based on that, match it up to the car, and see if we need to tweak it to get it as close to what we want it to be as possible.
Got it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the vision is original.
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 I'm glad now that I polished it, so you could at least get the original, because it was a different hue when it came in.
100%. That will mess with the spectrometer's ability to read it correctly.
Right.
So scratches will reflect light improperly. We want the cleanest, most straight substrate we can get to get this thing closed. So we'll wipe it down with some alcohol. It's great that you did your magic on it. We'll get the color and we'll start going on that. Because we really need to, our thing here is we need to stay ahead of the curve as much as possible, right?
With everything removed, the boys then inspected the paint now prior to stripping it. Now they do this because it's way easier to notice the imperfections when you have paint on it than with a car that has no reflection whatsoever, meaning when you remove all the paint, it's not as easy to see those imperfections. While this was all going on, Mike took measurements of the original door frame and hood stickers to have them replicated to, again, keep that OEM placement as well. So big kudos to J&B for doing that.
Yo, ¿te gusta este carro? Está linda, ¿no? Viejo, pero es chiquito, es más fuerte, ¿no?
After all this, we headed across the street and up the hill with the team to tape it up before the stripping process begins downstairs with George.
George!
So this is George. You guys remember him from the 964 project a few years ago. Absolute master at his craft. We did the same thing along with Mikey as well. We chemically stripped the paint off the metal. It's a stinky process, but man, does it work really well. So if you decide to do this, make sure you're all suited up. While the bodywork was underway, I drove all over Connecticut to get parts. First, I went up to meet my buddy Cory at Coventry Auto to scrounge around the owner Josh's backyard full of VW parts to find a door.
No engine in this one. Even I know that. It's similar to your Mark II rig.
Wow.
You're seeing basically everything for your car out here just strewn all over the place.
And
organized. And wet.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is heavy. Why is it so heavy?
Because you don't go to the gym.
Hello.
Yeah.
Just before I left, Cory also surprised me with a custom Montana green stitched shifter and handbrake boot from Western Mass Waterworks that is getting shipped down to the studio in the next week. Super pumped about that. After I left Coventry Auto, I headed down to FCP Euro to pick up a ton of parts we needed for the engine, suspension, and bits and pieces of pretty much everything else that was broken, missing, or just not working. When you order online, you can have it shipped to your door, or you can pick it up directly from FCP's headquarters in Milford, Connecticut. When you walk in, there's a pickup computer off to the left. Find your name in the system, then the locker assigned to your order. Mine was 154. With my cart full, I stacked all the boxes in the Cayenne and headed back down to see Tom at Ace to figure out what parts were for the engine and which parts were for the J&B.
This looks important. What is this thing? Where's the parts list?
Some sort of sensor. Power steering tank, that's yours. Seals are mine. Okay, I think we're good.
Right before I left Tom's, I removed the manifold and the valve cover so I could get those repainted at J&B when I bring all those parts down, and just to kind of take a peek inside the top of the motor.
Look how dry that is.
Yes, somebody just had this off. This is very clean.
I've never seen one like that clean before.
No, this looks like somebody just had this out.
So is this like good news or?
Well, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad because, yeah, maybe they put it, well, but we already knew the fuel system was screwed up, so that's what I think. I think they did all this work and it didn't run. That cylinder head has very, very low miles. I mean,
I'm taking it as a good thing.
that's a good thing.
Off to paint.
At this point in the video, we're about 11 days into the project. The body's getting stripped, sanded, filled, and primed at J&B's. While that's happening, Tom and Tom Sr. are removing the clutch and the old parts on the engine, and I was ready to start the interior detail and dye restoration. Step one is a heavy scrub with ammo lather and an interior brush just to lift the feces and urine from the surface. Again, this is just round one of cleaning that was desperately needed on the interior. After a quick wipe down, I resprayed lather and then steamed the area again for a deeper clean. The 50/50 with just a cleaning was already 10 times better. Just wait until it gets re-dyed. It's gonna look amazing when we're done. Anyways, most of the day I did this for every single interior panel, plastics, trim, or part. With all the parts clean and drying, I focused on the poop and pee-filled carpets. Step one was to blow off the heavy surface debris with compressed air and then quickly vacuum. Step two is a really healthy power wash. Then I soaked the fibers in soap, let it sit for a bit, and then steamed the carpet to increase the chemical's cleaning strength to help release the urine smell. After the second power washing, I sprayed shag fabric cleaner and steamed again just to return the fabric to a more neutral pH before steam vacuuming the carpet with a larger vacuum head. Finally, I used compressed air again just to help wick the fibers and release the excess moisture before hanging it to drip dry. I repeated the same steps on the rest of the disgusting carpets. If you're asking yourself why not just replace it, it's because I was told that they're super hard to find in good condition, and if we were to try to make new ones, they're very difficult to lay flat or to fit really well, etc. So it was worth a shot at keeping the originals. With the carpets drying, I focused on the rear seats and the gorgeous original Recaro front buckets. This was a bit trickier because I can't simply blast it with a pressure washer like I did the carpet, so I needed to do a few extra steps. For this to work properly, I used Digest Enzyme Cleaner to eat up all the bacteria from the mice. Small scrubbers, lots of steam, and lots of ammo shag in the diffuser. Now, again, this isn't very difficult. It's just super time consuming to avoid ripping or tearing the aged original material. I did the same thing on the fabric door cards as well, but by the way, how cool is this? Having soft panels instead of fake leather or vinyl. This car was so simple yet elegant in many ways, especially for 1991 standards. Unfortunately, this too was also a highway for mice and it's super thin material. In other words, I had to take my time not to rip it during the cleaning process. So the before and after visually was huge. The smell was even bigger. Same thing, I left them outside in the sun just to let the sun do its thing. So check out this little nerdy detail here. Just as a reference point, look at the steam vac reservoir after vacuuming the super thin door panels. Keep in mind, this isn't super soft plush carpets that will hold a lot of liquid. This is very thin material, but the crazy amount of urine and feces in just a very thin amount of fabric produced that much dense liquid. Completely insane. Now, normally if I was doing a huge carpet, this whole thing would fill up, the reservoir would fill up, but I only had a little bit of water and it was that gross, indicating that that material was disgusting. Okay, at this point, everything in the interior has been cleaned and dried, and as you can see from the reservoir there, it was absolutely disgusting. Lots of poop and lots of urine. And what that means for the dashboard and certainly center console and a couple of pieces back there is the urine sat on it, combined with the sun sitting outside for X amount of years. It just faded this. So it's still in good shape. It's just not vibrant black. So to get that back, we're gonna be doing a four-step process with SEM. I've done that same process on the M6 when we restored that a while back, but that material wasn't really in good shape. Luckily, this is in very good shape, just kind of faded. It's more white black than black black. Now to match the outside, that's getting an amazing paint job. The wheels that we have right behind the camera there, and we have the new engine coming. It just makes sense to sort of freshen up the interior. I'll show you the step-by-step process. The bottom line is this, it's not that complicated to do, and it's gonna look fantastic when we're done. Let me show you the steps. To dye your interior trim, first clean the surface of urine and poop, obviously, but then again with SEM soap and a scrub pad to not only deep clean with a strong degreaser, but to lightly scuff the surface for better adhesion in the later steps. Then when you're done, wipe it dry and just kind of spray it clean with compressed air. I like that as my final step. Step 2, spray plastic and leather prep and wipe with a clean lint-free towel. Then I use compressed air again, just in case anything gets trapped in the creases or crevices. Step 3, lightly spray XXX adhesion promoter lightly on the area and let it sit for about 2 minutes. When you're ready for the next step, you're gonna feel that that area is now a little bit tacky to the touch. Finally, lightly spray the appropriate color in multiple thin coats. I did 4 coats for this particular project. It's likely you might need more if you're gonna do a complete color change, saying from white to black or black to white or whatever. This one was just a refresh, so I only did about 3 or 4. If necessary, tape up the area you don't want to paint, but you get the idea. Again, it's not super difficult, but it is a little bit time consuming to do well. Personally, I love this part. Put some music on and enjoy the process. While I was having my painting party at the studio, J&B was working on sanding the areas that were marked with tape earlier in the day. Again, this is much harder to do once the paint is gone, so they removed some areas that didn't need any work, and the areas that did need work, they left the paint on until they did that work, then they went in and stripped it. After all the imperfections were corrected, then the paint stripper was applied to those same areas that needed the sanding and then covered in a plastic sheet. Then the rear damage was repaired with body filler and sanded for a perfect finish. Likewise, at the same time upstairs, the team was doing the exact same thing, but just on the plastic bumpers. The next day, George and Mikey sandblasted the area underneath the windshield because rust had formed from trapped water and needed to be removed prior to the next steps. Afterwards, the boys scuffed the jams for better adhesion and then primed the entire car. After a day of drying, George added another layer of primer. Same thing going on upstairs on the plastics as well. The engine compartment was still a bit greasy and dirty because we just shipped it down to J&B ASAP. So Mikey gave it a quick bath before George sandblasted that area again, but this time specifically underneath the battery, which is always a bit rusty. Once everything was properly primed and sanded, he then sent it across the street for the next steps. The J&B team in the next building continued to sand the primer further and apply sound deadening seam sealer to the engine bay underneath that battery tray we just worked on to avoid any future rust, then cured it underneath a heat lamp. So these guys are really dialed in. Now that she was all prepped, we moved her inside the booth to test for a perfect color match against the original Montana green. Now you'll find this interesting. To do that, the paint was carefully measured and mixed to match the exact color code from VW in 1991, and then they created a spray out panel to compare against the original paint. However, the only original paint remaining on the car was in the engine compartment, which I later found out was left unremoved on purpose for just this reason. Once they were sure of the color match from their spray out panel to what was originally in the car, then they could clean it up, prime the engine bay along with the rest of the car. So that's how precise and strategic J&B is. Very cool. I didn't figure that out until later on. I was like, oh, that's why you kept the paint in the engine bay. Very, very cool.
Since you're here, let's go take a look. Our painter is taking a look to make sure before he sprays, he's got everything under control, because once we spray, that's it. Now, we went into our system and we typed in Montana green, and it gave us this. This is a spray out. All the toners that went into this color. This is literally as close as humanly possible to the original Montana green that came out of the factory in 1991 that we could get, and we've decided as a team, this is what we're gonna spray.
Now that they were 100% sure on the color match, the only thing left to do is to paint the car. For those of you taking notes, we use the Glazeret 90 line water-based paint made in Germany, which is what VW uses at their factory from what I'm told. First was 2 full coats of water-based paint. Then the third coat is what's referred to as a drop coat or an effect coat, which means you lower the pressure from 19 psi to 16 psi on the gun and then move 12 to 16 inches away from the paint at a much slower arm speed. Now, the reason this is done is to atomize or to lay the metallic flake properly and with proper visual effect. I kind of think of it like this. It's similar in theory to competitive bodybuilders applying or spraying that oily or reflective coating on their muscles right before stepping out in front of the judges, etc. But in our case, we get to keep that specific effect forever by adding 2 coats of high solid clear coat on top of the drop coat for incredible depth and brilliance that is typically used in show cars. After 2 days of painting and drying, the parts are then hand blocked with 2500 grit to avoid removing the original orange peel look, yet refining the surface of any inevitable spray booth imperfections. Afterwards, they polish the paint for an original factory look.
All right, today is the day. I get to see my baby. My heart's coming out of my chest. Oh, is this it? Oh, this is it. Oh my God. Wow. Look at this. Oh, it is so perfect. Look at the trim. Wow. Oh my gosh. This is everything I was hoping for. Montana green, GTI, 16 valve, 2 liter. Now it's got fresh paint. Look at this.
Oh, can I show you one thing before you
Yeah.
go? I'm really excited about this. All right, so we had talked about this, but we weren't sure if we were gonna do it. All right, ready?
Oh my gosh, look at that.
Got a little fingerprints on it, but this is Montana green, clear coated in the dual overhead cam 16 valve emblem that goes across.
Wow. Match the paint perfectly. Oh, that's killer.
I did my part.
Yeah.
We did our part. You got a time crunch, so
I
get to
got
work,
the
baby.
interior and I got the engine to go back.
I'm
in.
washing my hands, brother. It's all you.
You're the man.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Good luck. Yo, you better put the footage of him lifting the car.
I know. Oh, dude, they did. They lifted the car up. Did you even have gloves that fit you?
Put it down for a second.
Oh, Madonna mia.
Put it down.
You guys are beasts.
With J&B's process done and with all the extra goodies like the manifold paint job, the car looked completely insane, but the clock is ticking for sure. So we got the GTI on the flatbed and raced back up to the studio to start assembling the interior and installing the engine. J&B Bodyworks is without question the best of the best in bodywork, and I'm grateful not only for their expertise and their care, but to get it done so that we even have a small chance of making the FCP Lime Rock meet in a few days. While the car was getting loaded up and sent back to the studio, everybody else was scrambling around in anticipation of having the body back very soon. Tom and Tom Sr. were working on the engine, the clutch, the water pump, timing belt, and so on. Check out how bad the original clutch was. Definitely time for some love. With the engine now in full surgery, my buddy Cory again found original BBS RMs that came with the car on a VW forum and had it shipped to the studio. So I quickly cleaned them up and brought them over to Ace for some brand new Vredestein quad tracks. Quick shout out to Sean White for his help in finding the wheels. If you're unfamiliar, Vredestein is a European tire brand over 100 years old that focuses on safety and design. For a soon-to-be daily-driven GTI in the Northeast with snow and rain, we went with the Quatrax, which is their all-weather performance tire. Best-in-class grip on wet roads, 5% better grip in snow, and lower rolling resistance for better fuel economy. These tires in particular come with wider grooves and small cuts in the tread to quickly push water away to help prevent this light car from sliding around. Plus, they have a gorgeous tread pattern which adds to the overall look, as they are designed by legendary Italian design house Giugiaro Design. My R8 and Cayenne both wear Vredestein, and the sidewall artwork is unlike any manufacturer I've ever seen. Very excited my new BBSs are wearing fresh rubber. On the other side of the shop, Tom Sr. is teaching class just like he did on the Charger carburetor rebuild from a few weeks ago. This man has forgotten more about cars than most experts know. Huge wealth of knowledge.
What are you doing to determine if it's too tight?
What I'm doing is, you have to be able to turn the belt 90 degrees with 2 fingers. And that's the proper tension. In other words, if you can't get that 90 degrees, it's too tight.
Got it.
And the reason, this is very critical, because the engine grows. When the engine warms up, it grows, and people say, oh, it's too loose. But once the engine gets warm and grows, that gets tight. It does not have an auto tensioner. It's a manual tensioner that we have to set. And we're good.
There we go.
There we go, we're good.
Success.
Right? Success.
Bright and early the next day with the freshly painted GTI in the studio, I blew out any remaining dust on the interior, then wiped the surface down with isopropyl alcohol. Then I laid down Dynamat Extreme anywhere I could just to keep the noise down. Remember, I threw out all that sound deadening because it was soaked in urine and I couldn't keep it in there. It was way too smelly. It wasn't worth the risk. So I needed to replace it with a more modern solution like Dynamat. Because of the adhesive backing, it couldn't be easier to install. Measure it, peel the back, and roll it on. Super simple, yet I still found a way to, to bleed absolutely everywhere. Just then, Bill from BillT Industries came back again, which was a huge help, and Eric the upholsterer and John, my sound guru, all showed up to help prepare the car for the new radio system and headliner installation. If you remember, the headliner was toast. I mean, like an actual wafer. You could just crush it into pieces when it came out. So Eric patched all of those weak spots with 3M panel bond just to strengthen it up, then covered it in new Excel black cloth. Before we installed the new headliner, John made sure to cover the metal roof and the little sunroof part as well in Dynamat, just to make sure that the GTI didn't have that tin can effect once we put the headliner in. The original door cards came with aftermarket speakers that, one, didn't work because the mice chewed through the wires, and two, didn't look very good because it wasn't OEM. So John and Eric 3D printed speaker boxes for the door cards, specifically for MK2s for a much better sound quality. Then they installed new audio control 3.5-inch speakers. Next, we installed the headliner and held it up with the rubber moldings and sun visor clips. Just then, Cory Sterling showed up from the VW garage up in Maine. He helped us kick this project into high gear. Now, at this point, we had about 8 days until the show, so really about 7 full working days left. Cory started working on the suspension in the heater box, Eric and Bill on the headliner and the plastics, John on the speakers, and me dyeing everything that was left over from the trim. When you're dyeing trim pieces that have faded, the before and after is huge. It's super easy to do on both trim and carpets as well. I also polished up the new / old taillights with a 3-inch pneumatic, sheer wool pad, and then waffle foam pad and exfoliate. Again, a huge difference. While I was trying to fill the crack in the dashboard to prevent it from cracking any further, Cory removed the old suspension.
H&R suspension going in.
At this point, Bill was working on removing the old fuel pump housing prior to replacing the MK2 gas tank with an MK3 gas tank and a standalone micro squirt fuel management system he makes, installs, and tunes himself. If you remember, when we removed the engine, we saw that the fuel lines were all plugged up, which is probably why the car sat in the first place. So to clean those out, Cory blew compressed air through those rusty hoses and tons of junk came out, which I believe, again, was the original issue. Next, Cory replaced the rotors and the brakes and then test fitted the new shoes. He jumped back into the rear and installed the tail lights, then the interior rear deck, and everyone was sort of just jumping from one project to the next, including cutting the old exhaust off the car and installing the dashboard. It was 50 things were going on at once. It was insane. Just about then, the FCP team arrived with more parts, including the new Milltek exhaust system.
We got stuff.
This is when things really started to pick up. Bill was piecing together that bird's nest of wires into the dashboard, while everyone else was either working on the suspension, the engine compartment, and transmission before installing the engine. It was a bit of controlled chaos going on.
Still playing with wires, still in the same spot. Still in the same spot. Getting the harness run.
Actually, he's got the best seat in the house right now.
Yeah, I got no one in my way.
Yeah.
Quote unquote.
If you got any rattle cuts in there, they don't.
He's got spaghetti.
Time to feed the beast.
So during the process here, I was told by someone who shall remain nameless to go get specific distilled special water and had me running all over town to find this special water for the radiator, only to find out later we didn't actually need it. They just wanted me out of the studio for a few minutes.
You told me to get distilled water.
I told you we needed it. We have that. It's 50-50 pre-mix
They
radio.
make it like
I got extra distilled. I went to 17 different places. I went there for an hour.
Well, we got the cleanest tasting iced tea you've ever had.
Anyways, by the time the day was over, Cory headed back to Maine and the FCP Euro crew headed back to Milford. Tom from Ace hopped back in to pick up where they left off. By the way, Cory is the unobtainium VW parts guy. If you can't find it with FCP because it's not manufactured anymore, Cory can find it in a junkyard or some old parts bin. The dude's just crazy, so a huge thank you to him, FCP Euro, and Josh from Coventry for piecing together all the parts on a 34-year-old car. While everyone was on lunch, I wanted to take a shot at trying to keep the original floor mats that came with the car from the previous owner, not the ones that came from the manufacturer. Now, these were stained somehow over the years, but this is how you go through the dyeing process on carpets. For step one, you want to just clean the carpet. Now, in this case, I can vacuum it up, but if there are stains in here, you want to remove those first, let it dry, then go back in and vacuum everything up. So you can see there's just little bits of dust here. So once I vacuum, then I'll go in with the scrub brush. I scrub it, then vacuum again. The idea is you want to remove anything that's down deep in the fibers because we're going to try to dye everything, not only the top, but the bottom, because this is very deep in the fibers. So that's the first step, clean it up, and we'll come right back. So because we have a logo here, I want to make sure that I don't make that black. So we're just going to cut out a little outline here. Let's take our adhesion promoter, give it a light spritz, especially on the area that needs the most color.
Make sure you're wearing a mask. Mix it in so you can get the adhesion promoter down deep. If you have compressed air, that would be helpful. Then you're going to use the bumper coater from SEM. This has a little bit more flexible nature to it, and of course this is going to be movable. It's carpet as opposed to something that's very stiff like plastic, right? Here you go. A couple of light coats. Afterwards, lightly go in and make sure that dye gets to the bottom of the carpet fibers. Much better.
Then Eric and John came in to clean up some more wires after the dash was installed.
We're testing the radio. We're gonna turn on the first thing in the car. Let's see.
Got the battery. Now we have some major help. Hello, sir.
Oh! Do the next thing that.
Wow!
Can you check the back ones? See if the back ones are good?
They're both working. Later in the day, Josh came down with his Scirocco 16-valve turbo from Callaway. This is one of 2 Callaways ever made.
That is hot.
It's raining halfway here.
Was it?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, turbo?
Yeah. So Callaway made 2 16-valve turbos. This is the only Scirocco, and then there's the yellow Zonker. But this is the stuff that they told me to bring. Fuel pump.
Oh, we definitely need it.
Plug, that kind of stuff. So
timing is everything. He has collected very rare parts for pretty much every VW over the years, and I had a bunch of missing things, including my door lock trim and the twist-on door puller. Talk about random. What I've learned is the VW community is absolutely awesome. To drive all the way down from Coventry with door lock pullers and such means a lot to me.
That is scrumptious.
Likewise, I want to give a quick shout out to another buddy of mine, Jeff from thecommongear.com, who was the one who actually alerted me to the GTI and the driveway in Ohio, as I mentioned earlier. Now, because this project had so many different parts and repairs and invoices and receipts, it's kind of a nightmare to keep track and to organize all that stuff. So instead of a box of unorganized receipts, instead, I'm using an online digital garage, which securely stores, organizes, and gives me access to all of the GTI's records and documents in one place. It's super easy to upload your DIY or your dealership maintenance records, and you can share it if you plan on selling your car, especially if you're going to put it on something like BAT, where this type of digital records is only going to increase the resale value of your car. It's kind of neat. Another cool feature that Jeff created is the on-site concierge service. Now, imagine you have a huge collection of cars and lots of unorganized paperwork. He provides a professional to come in, scan all the vital records, the mechanical work, that kind of thing, and upload it into the system for you, especially in automotive estate sale situations when organizing records properly could be worth thousands, if not millions of dollars. If you remember back when I did that huge collection, that 300-car barn find from a few years back, this is exactly what we needed then, and likely why the potential, quote, buy never went through because there were very few records and nothing was organized. It was kind of a disaster. Anyhow, check out the GTI build at thecommongear.com to get a feel for what I did and what it could do for you. Sign up for a free account and give it a try. Big shout out. Thank you, Jeff, for finding my GTI.
All right, so where we're at in the build right now, we got the motor in, all the stuff is getting installed. We're on the wiring harness now. I'm working on putting the intake setup in with the air box, test fitting and mocking everything up. Fuel rail will be going in next, and then we'll be tightening stuff up, and hopefully by the end of today, we'll be trying to fire this thing up. So we'll see what happens. But we're gonna just keep test fitting parts and getting everything in and plugging away at it.
If you don't know by now, Bill is a wild man and a VW genius. He makes a CIS delete kit that converts your car over to a programmable and upgradable EFI system. In other words, he removes the existing continuous injection system, which is mechanical, and replaces it with modern EFI on any engines that still run the old CIS setups. Clearly, the old fuel management system was likely the reason it stopped running and ultimately was left outside to rot. So this was a key issue to the GTIs.
All right, guys, check this out. We just got the equal length header from Milltek. Absolutely stunning. Cory recommended it. I'm super pumped. Now, this is going to be the perfect balance between sound and power. I can't wait to hear this thing.
Later that night with Bill up front, Tom installing the fuel pump in the trunk, and I was touching up the engine parts and extra trim pieces, John and Eric came back in to finalize the radio speakers and install the brand new trunk panel.
Okay, moving on to the audio part of the GTI build. When Larry called us in, we were taking a look at the door pockets, and these were how the speakers were mounted previously. Now, there's not really a lot of options for these MK2s because of how they're mounted from the factory. They're actually bolted onto the grill from the back, and most aftermarket speakers are too heavy to mount onto the grill. So me and Eric from DID Upholstery came up with these 3D printed brackets. They come apart. You put one side in here, and then the other side slips in through the speaker hole on the door panel, and then that's your template to make sure you can drill into the right spot, put your thread certs in, and then not only are you mounting the new speaker, but you're able to block the front waves from the back waves, resulting in a better sound.
To make the custom mat, Eric first created a basic template, then lays it on plywood before cutting it out. Then he created an ammo template and glued the letters inside the cutout back down onto the wood. Once everything was dry, then he carefully pulled the template up so that the ammo logo would be perfectly spaced out with raised letters. Next, he glued fabric down over the raised letters and carefully outlined the ammo with a small tool for an embossed look that was absolutely gorgeous. After a few more hours, we were looking pretty good, and I was feeling confident that we could make the show.
Oh, look at that.
All right, we got all the engine bay buttoned up, all the hoses on. Hopefully everything's tight. We got no leaks. We're gonna start adding all the fluids in, and then cross our fingers, and hopefully it'll fire up. All right, so we're gonna crank this thing over first with the injectors disconnected so no fuel gets in the cylinders, and let the motor build up oil pressure because it hasn't run in a while, just to get everything lubricated, make sure the filter's full so when we go to start it, you know, components in the engine aren't dry starting.
Hey, Bill, give it a shot. Oh, baby, first try. Is that normal for it to just turn over like that?
This is so smooth. I can't believe it. This is awesome. So smooth.
Sounds great. You're the man.
Went in. Is the wheel spinning right now? Basically, the push rod's not pushing in long enough, so Cory came up with a good idea of putting quarters in there on the throwout bearing just to give us more push on the push rod to see if the clutch would disengage, and it does, and we can go into gear now. So now we can make a decision on how we're gonna go forward. If we're gonna just lengthen the push rod or if we're gonna pull the transmission back out.
Oh, they went down the drain!
We shanked Washington in the neck.
You shanked Washington? So it was super late at night, so Bill made a decision to lengthen the push rod back at his house and come back tomorrow morning with a longer one. You can see the slight difference in length now, which solved the transmission issue. So what actually happened was by upgrading the throwout bearing, which we did earlier, you can see the difference in width of the old one and the new one. We had to offset the push rod length for the clutch to now engage properly. Okay, so with the car now running and the transmission now functioning, Bill reinstalled the rest of the interior, including the same Sparco steering wheel that I have on my 964. So good, I love that wheel. Then the fog lights, the front grille, and the used headlights. Cory searched high and low to find a whole story behind that, but we found it before he installed them. I gave them a quick polish and cleaned the inside of the glass as well. Again, these were used parts that we found somewhere in a junkyard. That was all that was left before we could do the test drive and tune.
Go take this for a test drive. And I'm gonna check some stuff on the file and make some adjustments to the tune. And that's it. Right now it's just on a base file that I put on the ECU to get you up and running so you can do your basic checkovers and at least have a starting file to start with. Pretty much turn our auto tune on for the fuel table and go drive it around and let the ECU adjust the fuel tuning for the car as we drive. See if the horn does work. Yeah. Pretty good, man.
With the test drive now complete, Tom and Bill tightened the last little bits before I gave her quick final polish and installed Frame Pro trim coat to the very dried out and original mirrors and added one last touch, my ammo sticker on the back window. You gotta do that before you go on your first drive. All right, there we go. Ammo logo on. I cannot believe we finished it in time. Tomorrow morning, we head up to Lime Rock. Super pumped. Woo. There she is. Wow. This steering wheel is amazing too. Listen to this thing go. Oh, what a blast.
This is what it's all about.
That's it, man. The last 30 days have been absolutely nuts, but it seems to all go away when you downshift and your GTI. If you don't like a GTI, you're not a car person. This thing is awesome. Super comfy too. Oh, another GTI. Look, I'm like waving to GTI people now. Let's listen to this thing wind out. Yeah. Yeah. Whoa.
So she made one for everybody else too.
How do you do that? She didn't like draw this, right?
Yeah, she drew it.
But how would she do this for everybody?
So she made one for you with a blank plate, and then she copied it. So she's gonna give one to J&B.
Oh, that's
to Bill,
sick.
One, yeah, to FCP.
That's sick. Thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Look at that.
What's up? Wow. On time too?
Dude, I left at 3 a.m. to get here.
Cory for the steering wheel. I just made it happen.
Wow. So what we're gonna do today as well, we're gonna get everybody who worked on the car to autograph the inside of that.
Awesome.
That should be sweet.
Dude.
It's here, it's alive.
Does the AC work?
Yeah, it works.
Yo. Y'all even got the AC?
Yeah.
That's what like, like,
didn't scrub the AC
the fact that the
pipes, so
AC
they
works
didn't work.
in that short of a, like, I think I'm more impressed by that than the actual paint and body.
Yeah, 5 weeks. 5 weeks from purchase to here.
I can take
Now this is pretty cool. At the show, I randomly bumped into the Mercedes 280 SL and the owner we brought out of a garage after 37 years that we surprised his dad. I'll put a link up here to the video. It has like 21 or 22 million views, some crazy amount. The car was still running and driving after we cleaned it all those years ago. That made me so happy to see, just to see the car that was once lost or forgotten, cleaned up, back on the road, and then actually at the show. Super cool. So working on great cars with amazing people and getting to drive them afterwards, that's the dream right there. It was a perfect moment, and it was a perfect way to end the day. If you enjoyed this video, please support my friends that made this happen. It was absolutely impossible to do it without them. Massive thank you to everyone. Ace Tire and Performance, Tom and Tom Sr. rebuilding and installing the engine. AutoMaxx, John Singh for fixing and replacing the sound system. BillT Industries, Bill Telesco with his CIS delete kit, disassembly, reassembly, and tireless nights of tuning the car. Coventry Auto, Joss Laborious for his unobtainium VW parts and pieces. DID Upholstery, Eric Lear fixing and replacing the headliner along with the custom trunk. FCP Euro for all the currently manufactured parts you could ever need on any Euro car. Special thanks to Jade, Marissa, Chris, and Yuchao for their extra help. J&B Bodyworks.
It's got good bones.
That's the point I'm trying to make.
It's been drinking milk its whole life. It's got good bones.
They pulled off the most ridiculous paint job with next to no time to do it. You've seen them in a bunch of episodes from the 964, the R8, and the Cayenne. These guys are absolute machines. Massive thank you. And of course, for the VW garage in South Portland and Westbrook, Maine, my buddy Cory for quarterbacking the endless search for the impossible, the unobtainable, and the missing parts for any VW. And of course, being the guy who inspired me to search for the MK2 in the first place. I love you, buddy. Thank you again. To everyone else, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and be sure to watch my new TV show on the Discovery Channel, Extreme Detailing. You can also get it on HBO Max and Discovery Plus. Click the link below for more info. Thanks again, and see you next time.
I'm a detailer and an overall clean freak, so I turned my childhood obsession with cleaning into a superpower.
This is the first.
Where I can always see the beauty through the filth, and because of that, I can turn a completely trashed car into a beautiful, coveted treasure. I clean crap all day long. This is a bit of a project.